So I'm Lisa Lord, and I have two kids. I have a son who just turned 13, so I now have a teenager, and a daughter who is 9. And we live in Vermont. I'm a single mom, and their dad lives in the UK. So all of the parenting responsibilities are on me. Well, there's probably a few different things. I feel like one of the big things that brought me to the program was feeling like I needed a mindset shift of sorts. I always wanted kids. I actually thought I wanted 4. I stopped after 2. And I just would find there were a lot of times that I wasn't really enjoying parenting. I sometimes felt like it was a burden, felt like the kids were kind of preventing me from doing stuff I wanted to do. That was definitely impacting how I was able to relate to them. So I feel like there was this kind of the life I wanted to have with my kids, which was full of joy and connection, and the reality of what I had, which was really a lot of me being like manager mom. Oh, what results have I gotten through the deep dive? I would say, there's been a lot of them. Definitely more connection with the kids, which was something that was really important to me. In particular with my son, because we're very different. My daughter and I are more similar, and I think it's naturally a little easier to get along, for lack of a better word or phrase, with people you're very similar to. So I feel like it's definitely helped our relationship. It's helped me to be really a lot more understanding and compassionate about him as a person. We're all different people, and so it's easier for me to celebrate him as an individual and have respect for him as, growing up to be who he wants to be, but really honoring his choices and his, ability to take risks and learn, and just, kind of let his heart lead, and detach myself a little bit from, what that means about me, because I want him to be true to who he is and feel what that feels like inside. Ooh, what did I like the most? I would say, again, it's like I feel like so many of these things are all tied together. But one of the things I liked most about the Conscious Parenting Deep Dive was that it helped me to really keep the idea of connection as sort of the most important part of parenting. Because, life, sometimes it's stressful, sometimes it's easy, sometimes you're more relaxed, and sometimes you're overtired. And, just knowing that regardless of the circumstances in life, connection is what's important. And, now that my son's a teenager, and my daughter's 9, it's getting more and more important for them to sort of carve their own paths. And feeling like there's a connection has really been helpful, doesn't say it strongly enough, but to have sort of that anchor, so that knowing that whatever the kids do, if we're connected, it means like I'm not judging. Like, yeah, maybe I totally disagree, or I wouldn't have done it now that I'm, decades older than him. Like I've got a lot more life experience that guides my choices. So feeling connected, I feel like it's easier for me to let go of controlling the choices that my kids are making, and really just help them reflect, So if there's a phone call from the principal, I'm like, wow, sounds like you had a hard day, as opposed to wagging my finger, which I brought that up because it was recently I got a phone call from the principal. And I think my sense was she was expecting me to be kind of furious on the phone and like, don't worry, he'll be punished. But that wasn't the approach I took with my son. And I think he opened up to me a lot more about what happened. And he was able to, I'm kind of going all over the place here, but as I'm continuing to reflect on this, you know, clearly like I was his ally, as opposed to, you know, him being the kid in trouble because he made a bad choice, and me being his mom who's like, well, I'm just going to do it, you know, I'm going to just take what the principal said and make sure that, you know at home also that you made a bad choice. And I feel like some of what I've learned through the program has allowed me to help him be more responsible for his choices. Because I've noticed over the years in trying various like parenting techniques that, you know, it was often really difficult for him to take responsibility. He always wanted to put blame elsewhere, explain why it happened and why it wasn't his fault. And I think that by simply being an observer and a supporter and like a sounding board, I'm not accusing him of anything. And so he's able to like think about his choices without being defensive. So I feel like it's allowing him to grow a lot more. What surprised me the most about the deep dive was that during the course, I realized I was starting to have a lot more compassion for my parents. Our relationship is a little bit complex, and you know, when I visit, it tends to be in like short periods, just because then they're really good visits, and I leave still feeling really good. But I noticed that the visits I had during the program, I had a lot more compassion for my parents. And that wasn't something you or Lindsay or you or Amanda were sharing. Like, oh, you can also learn how to be more compassionate towards your parents. But so it was a surprise. Makes sense, but it was completely unexpected. Well, I guess it's sort of two different things that are my biggest takeaway from the deep dive. And one of them, again, is connection, the importance of it. It's so easy, you know, in modern day society to be not only disconnected from ourselves, but disconnected from our kids. So just the importance of maintaining a connection, and really at just on a daily basis and across the board. You know, it doesn't matter if, you know, kids seem like they're acting cuckoo, you know, like just maintaining a connection, because any of the situations that prior to the program, you know, there are themes, you know, there are things that kind of come up, you know, like my son wants an iPhone. That's something that was coming up a lot before the program. It's something that came up during it. It's something that's going to keep coming up. So, excuse me. So maintaining a connection that is independent of whatever kind of chaos is around it, and feeling how much more rich the relationship is when there is that connection, regardless of whatever's happening around it, and that you can maintain that connection even if you are at opposite ends of an agreement. Also, my kids are not me. Like, my kids are different people, and what they're thinking, and, you know, like, they're their own people. And I would never try and control a friend or a colleague. And yet we, as a society, like, we're always trying to control our children. And yes, certainly, like, there are expectations of, like, you know, appropriate behaviors in various settings. But to think that I could control my kids' thoughts or desires or interests, that's not my place. It's not a good place to be. So that was another really big takeaway, was they're independent beings, and to really honor that, as like, them being who they are. So the importance of honoring them as being them. Oh, just do it. And I think the program is so different than any other program. I feel like most programs are about, try this technique, when your child is, defying you, or your child's not listening, do X and then Y and then Z. It tends to be like these formulaic kind of systems. And I know that you have like a formula, but it's more of a formula for a philosophy. And it's like where you're coming from as a parent, as opposed to like, checking off a list to make sure that you've figured out how to deal with different situations. So it's a philosophy that I find it's very freeing as a parent, to have these shifts in paradigm where, it's about respect, and it's about connection, and it's about, understanding your kids as people. It makes life easier when you are connected to the people in your home and your kids. And it ends up enriching other relationships, like I mentioned earlier with my parents. I have more compassion for my parents. And so to be on the fence, I feel like I've read a ton of parenting books, and haven't done much in the way of online programs for parenting. But I have found that of all of the different things I've tried to implement, this is the most life-changing, because it truly does improve the relationship you have with children. It's not just about getting them to comply, which I feel like a lot of parenting techniques are about, like compliance. But this is really about deepening a relationship and like enhancing life. So it really is just a whole shift in operating. Yeah. So get off the fence, just do it. Like, well, for me, it was a super simple decision. I'm familiar with some of the coaching background that you and Amanda have. And it's something that, just with the little experience I've had of it, I've recognized how powerful and transformative and life-changing it is. And it was always something that was done with adults. And so to have that kind of coaching, like parenting through that lens, like it really, I don't even think I watched, you had like some promotional videos. I signed up once I knew the coaching sort of paradigms. I was like, that's it. I don't need to watch anymore. I don't need to like read testimonials. Just knowing the foundation of the type of coaching that you guys do, I knew that it was just exactly what I needed, because to try and apply, these like adult coaching techniques to kids, it's different. And you guys had done that. So yeah, it was coaching that I had experienced as super efficient and effective and life-changing for me. And it was now applying to parenting. So yeah, it was a no-brainer for me. I guess the fact the program has so much in it, and I think that when you go through it, it's like you kind of learn it in layers. So you can go through the 6 weeks, and I think it was 6 weeks, right? You go through the program, and you can absorb and apply what you can absorb and apply, and then you feel the shifts from that. But having lifetime access to it, it's something that it's like a lifeline. You can go back to it if you feel like things have kind of gotten off track, or when you feel like, okay, I feel, I've kind of I feel like I've got this first layer down, and now like let me go through it all again. And then it's like you're coming at it with a different frame of reference because you've started applying some of it, started experiencing some of the benefits of it. So then you can keep going through it and, you know, deepening the experience with it. And like as parents, we know that every developmental stage our kids have come with a whole new set of learning curves for us. So each time you would go, I mean, I'm guessing because I just finished the course, but each time I would go through it, you know, as my children are aging, I can really learn new things just based on having a different place in my life that I'm learning it from. Well, it's an awesome program, and I think it's so necessary. And, you know, sometimes I see in random Facebook posts, somebody post about this problem with their kid or that problem with their kid. And then the comments are full of like, you need to be more heavy-handed. That kid needs more boundaries. You need to, you know, send him to his room. He needs timeouts. Like just, there's so many, you know, everybody's well-meaning. But there's so much, I feel like, resentment building in kids because, you know, there's so many punitive approaches to parenting, and that doesn't feel good as a parent either. So, you know, it's just helping like the next generation. They got a lot, they have a lot on their plates as far as just the world that they're in. So, you know, these are more life skills and tools that'll really help them.